We all carry stories. Some are told in words. Others are etched silently into the fabric of our being, unseen yet overwhelmingly powerful. These stories often aren't ours to begin with. They were planted in us by the world we were born into, by the voices of our parents, the expectations of society, the emotional climate of our childhood home. Over time, those outer voices became inner ones. What was once spoken to us, "Don't cry, be strong, you're too sensitive, that's not good enough," becomes how we speak to ourselves. And so the pattern is born, the silent loop of criticism, self-doubt, perfectionism, fear of rejection, or chronic guilt. We think these are just personality traits, but they are not. They are survival adaptations. Each emotional pattern, each belief about love, happiness, or worthiness began as a strategy to stay safe, to gain approval, to avoid loss, to be loved. In this video, we will go on a long, uninterrupted journey, one that speaks directly to your emotional core. We will explore how negative patterns are formed, why they persist, and most importantly, how we can begin to loosen their grip on our lives. This is not about quick fixes. It is about radical understanding, a gentle excavation of the soul. We will draw from the insights of philosopher Alain de Botton, the principles of emotional development, the wisdom of psychoanalysis, and the quiet courage of looking inward. You will not find cheerleading here. You will find clarity, and in that clarity, liberation. Let's begin. The origins of the inner critic. The first thing to understand is that your inner voice did not originate from within. It was learned, acquired, like a language. When a child is born, they are a blank canvas in terms of vocabulary and emotional expectations. By the age of 5 or 6, that child will have absorbed thousands of words, idioms, social cues, and more importantly, they will have silently adopted the emotional grammar of their environment. This emotional grammar includes implicit answers to questions like, what does it mean to be a man or woman? What happens if I express vulnerability? Is it safe to want things? Will I be punished or accepted if I say no? These aren't taught directly. They are absorbed. A child watches how love is given and withdrawn, how anger is handled, how success is rewarded or resented. Over time, they form unconscious rules, scripts they will carry well into adulthood. The tragedy is that these rules often no longer serve us. The rule that helped a child survive in a tense household, always keep the peace, don't speak up, may turn into social anxiety or people-pleasing in adulthood. The child who learned that love must be earned through achievement may become a perfectionist terrified of failure. Yet we continue to follow these scripts often without knowing why. And when we try to break them, we get frustrated. Why can't I just stop overthinking? Why do I sabotage relationships? Why am I never satisfied? The answer lies in understanding you are trying to speak a new emotional language while your brain is still wired in the old one. It takes time, compassion, and repetition, the emotional vocabulary. We lack one of the most subtle yet profound sources of our emotional suffering is our lack of vocabulary. Most people know how to describe physical pain, headache, nausea, dizziness, but when it comes to emotional pain, we're lost. We say I'm stressed when we mean I feel unsafe. We say I'm fine when we're actually deeply disconnected. We say I don't care when we're afraid of rejection. Words are not just labels, they are containers. They allow us to hold emotions in a space where we can examine them rather than be consumed by them. When a person finally learns the word betrayal, they can begin to process what they felt growing up with an unreliable parent. When someone understands the concept of dissociation, they realize why they often feel numb in moments of intensity. Alain de Botton says that language gives us emotional precision, and emotional precision gives us power. Not power to dominate, but power to heal. Without language, pain becomes vague, murky, and easily buried. With language, it can be faced. Why we fear happiness. This might sound strange, but many of us are terrified of happiness. Not because we don't want it, but because somewhere deep inside we learned it's dangerous. If love in your early life was conditional, inconsistent, or tied to shame, you may unconsciously associate happiness with loss. Maybe being happy meant you were taking attention from a sibling. Maybe it triggered jealousy in a parent. Maybe it meant letting your guard down and then being hurt. So you grew up, and now every time something good happens, you sabotage it. Not on purpose, but by default. You pick fights in loving relationships. You undercut your own success. You procrastinate on the things you desire most. Why? Because happiness feels like a risk. This is not irrational, it's protective, but it's outdated. To move forward, we must grieve the early moments when joy was punished or misunderstood. And then gently, gradually, we must build new associations, that happiness can be safe, that love can be consistent, that we don't have to destroy the good to protect ourselves. Cam on ban. Ming si tiep tuk fan, tiep theo, witrung tam, jau seu vautam, li, kuda lamwek wan higyoa kaskiugen, but hoi to o attachment style shuhuang, to fa huai bentan, vakas chualan motakam ksuk tieo kaktong, kwen handien nangon gaukam sukva hanjong moi. Doi jai la fan tiep noi, viet lien mach ro rang dai, hoi so sak va ket noi chache. The attachment blueprint, every adult carries a map in their nervous system. It's not visible, and it was drawn long ago, but it dictates how we approach intimacy, conflict, trust, and vulnerability. This map is what psychologists call your attachment style. Attachment is the emotional blueprint we form in our early relationships, especially with caregivers. If a child receives consistent, warm, attuned responses, they are likely to form a secure attachment. They grow up expecting that others will meet their emotional needs and that it's safe to love and be loved. But many don't get that. Some children learn that expressing needs leads to rejection. Others find that love comes with conditions, perform, behave, obey, and you'll be rewarded. Still others experience love as dangerous or chaotic. These early conditions form the foundation of insecure attachment, which tends to manifest in one of two ways. Anxious attachment, always fearing abandonment, craving reassurance, overgiving, over-explaining, over-analyzing. Avoidant attachment, pushing people away, retreating from emotional closeness, appearing strong and independent while carrying deep emotional wounds. Neither style is a conscious choice. They are survival strategies. And the cruel irony is that the person with anxious attachment will often fall for someone with avoidant attachment, repeating the cycle of unmet needs and emotional disconnection. But the truth is, your attachment style is not your destiny. While the map was drawn in childhood, you can redraw the roads. It begins with awareness, recognizing your patterns not as who you are, but as what you learn. You can begin to observe, when do I pull away? When do I cling? What does love feel like in my body, safe or threatening? That's the first step, not to change, but to notice. And from there, you can begin to practice new relational experiences, first with yourself, then with others. The art of emotional reparenting. Healing emotional patterns is not about fixing the past. It's about reparenting yourself in the present. You can't go back and make your caregivers more emotionally available or less critical or more loving, but you can become the adult you needed back then. This process, called emotional reparenting, is at the core of healing. It starts when you stop judging your pain and start validating it. Imagine this: you feel rejected after a friend doesn't reply to your message. Instinctively, your inner voice says, "You're too sensitive. Don't be needy." But now with awareness, you pause. You ask yourself, what would I say to a 7-year-old feeling this way? Probably something like, "It's okay to feel hurt. Your feelings make sense. You are still worthy." That is reparenting, not through perfection, but through consistent compassion. It also means setting boundaries. It means no longer abandoning yourself to win the love of others. It means recognizing when your nervous system is in fight or flight and gently bringing yourself back into safety, sometimes through a walk, breathwork, journaling, or simply holding your own hand. This work is slow and often invisible, but its effects are profound. Each time you choose self-kindness over self-criticism, you rewire your emotional language. You rewrite the rules. Why we sabotage what we want. There's a strange contradiction inside many of us. We long for intimacy, peace, and purpose, and yet when they appear, we push them away. This is called self-sabotage. At first glance, it doesn't make sense. Why would someone destroy what they desire? But when we look deeper, self-sabotage is usually self-protection. You want love, but love to your nervous system means potential hurt. You want success, but success means exposure. You want rest, but rest feels lazy or unsafe. So you unconsciously create chaos because chaos is familiar. And in the brain, familiar often feels safer than healthy. Self-sabotage isn't a failure of willpower. It's a sign of unprocessed emotional fear. To move beyond it, you need to practice staying with what is good. When joy comes, breathe through the urge to ruin it. When peace settles in, don't chase the next problem. When love shows up, let it land without questioning if you deserve it. Healing means expanding your emotional capacity to receive what once overwhelmed you. Bit by bit, you teach your nervous system that goodness is safe. That fulfillment won't destroy you. That rest is not abandonment, that you can have what you want and keep it. From understanding to integration, insight is not enough. You can read every book, take every course, memorize every psychological theory, and still fall back into the same patterns. Why? Because healing is not cognitive. It is embodied. Understanding something intellectually is the beginning, but it must be integrated emotionally and somatically. Let's say you realize that your overworking comes from childhood praise only given when you achieve something. That's a powerful insight. But unless you feel the grief of that unmet need and allow your body to experience rest without panic, you won't shift the pattern. This is why practices like journaling, breathwork, inner child dialogue, somatic therapy, relational healing through safe friendships are not indulgent. They are essential. Integration also means repetition. You will forget, you will revert, you will stumble. But each time you return more gently, more quickly, more honestly, you build a new baseline. Healing is not a one-time realization. It is the quiet daily decision to return to yourself. The myth of being fixed. There is no final version of you. No moment when all your wounds are healed and your life is perfectly tidy. That's a fantasy, one often fueled by the self-help industry. Real growth is not linear, it's cyclical. You don't graduate from your triggers. You get better at noticing them earlier, responding with more kindness, recovering faster. But they still appear. And that's okay. Alain de Botton often reminds us we're all idiots. Not in the harsh sense, but in the profoundly human one. We're all flawed, stumbling forward. The goal isn't perfection, it's self-acceptance. Once you stop trying to be fixed, you can finally start living. You can be in relationships without demanding they complete you. You can work without basing your worth on productivity. You can feel sad without fearing you're broken. Healing is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully yourself with tenderness, with patience, and with the deep understanding that being human is hard and being here is enough. The role of relationships in rewriting the self contrary to what some spiritual teachings suggest, healing is not a solitary path. While solitude can be valuable, we are relational creatures shaped and reshaped by our connections. The same way early wounding happened in relationships through rejection, neglect, shame, healing must also happen through relationships, through safe, attuned, patient human contact. This doesn't always mean romantic relationships. It can be a therapist, a close friend, a mentor, a community. What matters is this: when you show your true self, the part of you that's afraid, flawed, unsure, and the other person stays, doesn't judge, and still sees your worth, your nervous system learns a new truth. That truth is, I can be real and still be loved. Over time, these moments accumulate. They overwrite the old story that love must be earned, or that you are too much, or that your needs are a burden. But this process requires emotional vulnerability, which many of us resist. Vulnerability feels like weakness if you grew up in an environment where your emotions were dismissed or weaponized. To open again, to share when you're scared to cry, when you feel safe to say, I need you without shame, is one of the bravest acts in adulthood. And it is the foundation of what Alain de Botton calls mature love, that is not transactional but generous, not perfect but committed. In the end, relationships don't just reveal who we are, they help us become who we're meant to be. Reclaiming the power of small shifts. There is a quiet danger in the healing world, the pursuit of transformation that is too big, too fast. Many people begin their inner work with a burst of energy. They want massive change. I'll change my habits, rewire my brain, find my purpose, heal my trauma, all in 6 months. But healing doesn't work that way. It's not fireworks. It's slow light filtering through the cracks. Real lasting change comes from small shifts repeated daily, noticing when you're critical and pausing instead. Speaking one truth per day that you used to hide. Saying no gently and surviving the guilt. Breathing deeply when fear rises instead of fleeing it. Choosing to rest without apologizing. These are revolutions in miniature. They don't make headlines, but they change lives. You may not feel like you're making progress, but if you look closely, you'll see signs. You bounce back from emotional storms faster. You choose people who respect your boundaries. You hear your inner critic, but it no longer runs the show. You feel sadness without collapsing. You feel joy without sabotaging it. That is growth. And it doesn't require fixing everything. It requires honoring what's already healing. In a world addicted to extremes, returning to the ordinary with a new mind is a radical act. A healed life is not extraordinary in appearance. It is extraordinary in presence. The courage to begin again. At some point in this journey, you may feel discouraged. You'll read something wise and feel like you already knew it and wonder why you still struggle. You'll have a breakthrough and days later fall into an old pattern. You'll think, maybe I'm not healing. Maybe this doesn't work for me. But here's the truth. Healing is not a straight line. It loops, it spirals, it circles back. But each time you return, you bring more awareness, more gentleness, more capacity. That's progress. You don't need to feel better every day. You only need to keep returning to yourself with honesty, with kindness, and with the willingness to look at what hurts without running from it. Alain de Botton once said, "The good life is not one immune to sadness, but one in which suffering contributes to our development." This is not about removing pain from your story. It's about making peace with its presence and letting it shape you into someone deeper, wiser, more alive. So take a moment now. Breathe. You are not broken. You are becoming. The patterns you inherited are not who you are. The stories you tell yourself can be rewritten. You have already begun. Each word you've listened to here is a thread in the tapestry of your new narrative. The world may not reward this quiet work, but it matters more than we know. Because when one person heals, they make it safer for others to do the same. So go gently, go slowly, and most of all, go honestly. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to join a community of people who are also on this path of growth, awareness, and emotional truth. Like this video if it offered you clarity or comfort. Share it with someone who might be struggling with invisible patterns. Subscribe to this channel if you want more content that speaks to the soul, not just the surface. You're not alone in this. We're all rewriting our stories one breath at a time.